First contact and cultural shock. The sleek, silver form of the Xoxian exploration vessel Starwaver glided silently through the inky void of space, its advanced sensors probing the darkness for signs of intelligent life. Captain Zix, a tall, slender being with iridescent scales and 4 piercing eyes, stood at the helm, her antennae twitching with anticipation. "Captain," called out Science Officer Vex, his tentacles dancing over the holographic display, "we're picking up unusual signals from the 3rd planet of this yellow star system." Zix's eyes widened with interest. "Unusual how, Vex?" "They're artificial, Captain, and incredibly diverse. It appears we may have stumbled upon a previously undiscovered civilization." The bridge of the Starwaver erupted into a flurry of excited chitters and whistles. First contact was a rare and momentous occasion in the history of any spacefaring race. Zix raised a scaled hand, silencing her crew. "Steady, everyone. Let's approach with caution. Vex, what can you tell us about this world?" Vex's tentacles flew across the controls, pulling up detailed scans of the blue and green marble before them. "It's a Class M planet, Captain. Nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere, vast oceans, and, by the eternal void, the biodiversity readings are off the charts." Zix leaned in, her 4 eyes drinking in the data. "Any signs of advanced technology?" "Yes, but it's puzzling, Captain. I'm detecting everything from primitive combustion engines to quantum computers. It's as if their entire technological history is coexisting simultaneously." The captain's antennae twitched thoughtfully. Curious indeed. Any signs of spacefaring capability? Vex hesitated. "Minimal, Captain. They appear to have a primitive orbital station and have sent probes to nearby celestial bodies, but nothing beyond their local system." Zix nodded, a decision forming in her mind. "Very well. We'll make our approach. Initiate first contact protocols." As the Starwaver descended through Earth's atmosphere, cloaked from detection, the crew marveled at the patchwork of cities, forests, and oceans below. They settled in a remote area, a clearing surrounded by dense forest, far from the nearest human settlement. "Atmospheric composition confirmed safe," Vex announced. "We can breathe without assistance." Captain Zix nodded, her scales shimmering with excitement. "Excellent. Vex, you're with me. Let's go meet the locals." As they stepped out of the ship, the rich sense of Earth's biosphere assaulted their senses. The feel of gravity, slightly stronger than they were accustomed to, made their movements careful and deliberate. They hadn't taken more than a few steps when a loud crack echoed through the forest, followed by a startled yelp. A human, clad in rugged outdoor gear and clutching a primitive projectile weapon, stumbled into the clearing. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The human's eyes widened in shock, darting between the aliens and their vessel. Captain Zix, drawing upon years of diplomatic training, raised her hands in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "Greetings," she said, her translator converting her chittering speech into the human's language. "We come in peace." The human's mouth opened and closed several times before he found his voice. "Holy shit," he muttered, then louder, Are you aliens?" Vex's tentacles wiggled in amusement. "I believe on this planet, you are the aliens, friend." The human, who introduced himself as Park Ranger Mike Thompson, turned out to be an excellent first contact. After overcoming his initial shock, he displayed a remarkable curiosity and openness to the extraterrestrial visitors. "So, you folks have been exploring the galaxy. That's amazing," Mike exclaimed as they sat around a hastily made campfire. The flames cast flickering shadows across the clearing, adding an air of surrealism to the scene. "We've barely made it to our own moon." Captain Zix nodded, her antennae bobbing. "Indeed, your species is young in terms of space exploration, but we've observed some truly remarkable things about your civilization." Mike leaned forward, eager to hear an outsider's perspective on humanity. "Oh yeah, like what?" Vex's tentacles danced excitedly. "Your adaptability is astounding. We've observed humans living in every conceivable environment on your planet. Frozen tundras, scorching deserts, even underwater in primitive submersibles. Mike chuckled. Yeah, we're a stubborn bunch. If there's a place to explore, you can bet humans will find a way to live there. Captain Zix's eyes narrowed in curiosity. But why? Many species we've encountered prefer to terraform environments to suit their needs. You seem to prefer adapting your cells instead. The ranger shrugged. I guess it's just part of who we are. We see a challenge, and we want to overcome it. Plus, there's something special about experiencing nature in its raw form, you know. As the night wore on, more humans arrived at the clearing, alerted by Mike's calls. Scientists, government officials, and curious locals all gathered to meet the alien visitors. The Zoxians were overwhelmed by the diversity of human appearances, cultures, and perspectives. One scientist, Dr. Emily Chen, was particularly interested in the Zoxians' technology. Your ship, she said, gesturing to the Star Weaver, it must use some form of faster-than-light travel, right? How does it work? Vex began to explain, his tentacles illustrating complex equations in the air. Well, we utilize a quantum folding drive that essentially... He was cut off by a loud rumbling sound. The humans looked alarmed, but Captain Zix recognized it immediately. Ah, my apologies, she said, her scales flushing a deeper blue. It seems the local cuisine has had an interesting effect on my digestive system. The humans burst into laughter, and soon the Zoxians joined in, their chittering giggles mixing with human guffaws. It was a moment of pure cross-species joy that would be remembered for generations to come. As dawn broke, casting a golden light across the clearing, Captain Zix found herself reflecting on their encounter. The humans, despite their technological infancy, had shown remarkable resilience, curiosity, and warmth. They had greeted beings from another world not with fear, but with open arms and minds. Captain, Vex said, approaching with an excited wiggle of his tentacles. I've been analyzing the data we've gathered. I think we may have stumbled upon something truly special here. Zix nodded, her four eyes gazing out at the sunrise. I believe you're right, Vex. Humanity is young, yes, but they have potential, great potential. As they prepared to depart, promising to return and facilitate Earth's introduction to the galactic community, Mike approached Captain Zix one last time. So, what happens now? He asked, a mix of excitement and apprehension in his voice. Zix placed a scaled hand on his shoulder. Now, my friend, your world changes forever. The universe is vast and full of wonders, but also dangers. Are you ready for what lies ahead? Mike looked back at the group of humans, a determined glint in his eye. Ready? Probably not. But that's never stopped us before. Bring it on, universe. Humanity is coming. As the Star Weaver lifted off, disappearing into the morning sky, the assembled humans cheered and waved. They knew that this was just the beginning of humanity's greatest adventure yet. Little did they know, the true test of their species was yet to come, for in the vast tapestry of galactic civilization, Earth was about to make a splash that would ripple across the cosmos. The Galactic Challenge. 6 months had passed since humanity's first contact with the Zoxians. Earth was abuzz with excitement and change. The United Nations had established a new department for extraterrestrial affairs, and countries around the world were pooling resources to accelerate space exploration programs. Dr. Emily Chen, the scientist who had been present at the first contact, now found herself as Earth's lead representative to the galactic community. She stood aboard the Zoxian diplomatic vessel, Harmony Seeker, her heart racing as they approached the massive space station that served as the headquarters for the Galactic Confederation. Nervous, Dr. Chen? Captain Zix asked, her scales shimmering with amusement. Emily chuckled. Is it that obvious? I feel like I'm about to walk into a job interview, except the job is representative of the entire human race. Vex, now serving as Earth's liaison, wiggled his tentacles reassuringly. You'll do fine, Emily. Just remember, Many of the species you'll meet today were once in the same position as humanity. As they docked with the space station, Emily gasped at the sight before her. The docking bay was a kaleidoscope of alien life forms and spacecraft designs. Beings of all shapes, sizes, and compositions moved about with purpose. "Welcome," a melodious voice echoed in Emily's mind, to Nexus Station. Emily turned to see a tall, ethereal being floating towards them. Its body seemed to be composed of shimmering light, constantly shifting and changing colors. "Greetings, Arbiter Lux," Captain Zix said, bowing slightly. "May I present Dr. Emily Chen of Earth?" The being, Arbiter Lux, focused its attention on Emily. She felt a warm, comforting presence in her mind. "Welcome, child of Earth. We have been eagerly awaiting your arrival." Emily bowed, trying to remember the protocol she'd been briefed on. "Thank you, Arbiter. We are honored to be here." As they made their way through the station, Emily struggled to take in all the wonders around her. Holographic displays showed star systems she'd never imagined, and beings of every conceivable form engaged in animated discussions in languages her universal translator couldn't begin to decipher. They entered a vast chamber, reminiscent of the United Nations General Assembly, but on a scale Emily could hardly comprehend. Representatives from thousands of worlds filled the room, their attention now focused on the newcomers. Arbiter Lux glided to the center of the chamber. "Esteemed representatives of the Galactic Confederation, I present to you the delegation from Earth, the newest potential member of our cosmic family." A murmur rippled through the assembly. Emily could sense curiosity, skepticism, and even some hostility from the gathered aliens. A bulbous, gelatinous being floated forward. "Arbiter, with all due respect, Earth is a pre-FTL civilization. They have barely taken their first steps into space. How can they possibly contribute to our Confederation?" Emily felt a surge of indignation, but before she could speak, another voice rang out. "And yet, they have achieved much in their short history." The speaker was a being that looked like a sentient crystal formation. "I have studied Earth's transmissions. Their creativity, their art, their music, it is unique in the galaxy." The debate raged on, with various factions arguing for and against Earth's inclusion. Emily stood, her mind reeling from the complexity of galactic politics she was witnessing. Finally, Arbiter Lux raised a glowing appendage, silencing the chamber. "It is clear that Earth's readiness for full membership is in question. Therefore, I propose a challenge." The assembly buzzed with interest. Earth will be given a series of tasks, tests of their capabilities and character. If they succeed, they will be granted full membership in the Confederation. If they fail, Lux's light dims slightly, they will be quarantined, their existence hidden from the galaxy at large for their own protection. Emily's heart raced. The fate of her entire species now hung in the balance. "We accept your challenge, Arbiter," she said, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. The first challenge came swiftly. Earth was tasked with establishing a self-sustaining colony on Mars within 1 year, a feat that would have taken decades with their current technology. Back on Earth, the news of the challenge sparked a global mobilization unlike anything in human history. Countries that had been adversaries for centuries now worked together, pooling resources and knowledge. Emily found herself at the heart of this effort, coordinating between Earth's scientists and the limited technological assistance provided by the Confederation. The Arbiter had been clear. While they could offer guidance, the bulk of the work had to be done by humans themselves. Months passed in a blur of sleepless nights, breakthrough moments, and heartbreaking setbacks. The first attempted launch of the colony ships ended in failure, with 2 of the 5 ships experiencing critical malfunctions. "Maybe the skeptics were right," Emily muttered, staring at the reports of the failed launch. "Maybe we're not ready for this." It was Mike Thompson, the park ranger from First Contact who had insisted on joining the Mars mission, who pulled her out of her despair. "Hey Doc," he said, his rugged face lined with exhaustion but his eyes still bright. "You know what makes humans special? We don't give up. Ever. So what's the plan B? His words ignited a spark. Emily gathered her team, and they began to think outside the box. If they couldn't launch all the colonists at once, why not send advance teams to prepare the ground using local resources? The new plan was risky, requiring the first waves of colonists to survive in harsh conditions while preparing for the others. But it was a risk they had to take. As the deadline approached, the eyes of the galaxy turned to Mars. The red planet's surface was now dotted with the beginnings of dome structures, greenhouses, and mining operations. The first crops of Martian potatoes were beginning to sprout, cultivated in soil enriched with genetically engineered bacteria. With just days to spare, the final colony ships landed, completing the required population for a self-sustaining colony. As Emily watched the live feed of the colonists celebrating, tears streamed down her face. They had done it, but their jubilation was short-lived. Arbiter Lux appeared on the main communication screen, its light pulsing with what Emily had learned to recognize as excitement. "Congratulations, humans," the Arbiter's voice echoed. "You have passed the first test, but your challenges are far from over. Your next task awaits, and it will test not just your technological prowess, but your very understanding of life itself." As the transmission ended, Emily exchanged looks with her team. They were exhausted, pushed to their limits, but there was a fire in their eyes. Humanity had tasted success on the galactic stage, and they were hungry for more. "All right, team," Emily said, a determined grin spreading across her face. "Let's show the galaxy what humanity can really do." Little did they know, the next challenge would push them to the very edge of what they thought was possible, forcing them to question the fundamental nature of intelligence and life itself. The true test of humanity's place in the cosmos was about to begin. Humanity's triumph. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a swirling mass of colors and shapes that seemed to defy description. Dr. Emily Chen squinted, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. "This," Arbiter Lux's voice resonated in the minds of the assembled human team, "is the Nexus Cluster. It is a coalescence of pure energy and information, existing in a state between matter and consciousness. Your final challenge is to establish communication with it." Mike Thompson, the former park ranger turned astronaut, let out a low whistle. "Communicate with that? How do you talk to something that's not even alive in the way we understand it?" Emily felt a familiar mix of excitement and trepidation. This was why she had become a scientist, to push the boundaries of human understanding. But the stakes had never been higher. "We have one standard galactic month," she announced to her team. "Let's get to work." The next weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Teams of linguists, physicists, and computer scientists worked around the clock, trying to decipher the patterns within the Nexus Cluster. Traditional methods of communication, radio waves, light signals, even attempts at quantum entanglement, all failed to elicit a response. As the deadline loomed closer, frustration mounted. Emily found herself staring at the holographic representation of the cluster late one night, her mind racing. "We're thinking about this all wrong," a voice said, startling her. It was Dr. Aisha Patel, a quantum physicist who had been uncharacteristically quiet during the recent debates. "What do you mean?" Emily asked, intrigued. Aisha's eyes gleamed with excitement. "We're trying to communicate with it as if it's external to us. But what if it's not? What if we're part of it and it's part of us?" The idea was radical, but it sparked something in Emily's mind. She gathered the team, and together they began to explore a new approach. Instead of trying to send messages to the cluster, they would attempt to synchronize with it, to become one with its ebbs and flows. They repurposed the neural interface technology developed for the Mars colony, creating a system that would allow a human mind to directly interface with the cluster's energy patterns. It was dangerous, untested technology, but they were running out of options. As the team debated who should attempt the interface, Mike stepped forward. "I'll do it," he said, his voice steady. "I'm not a scientist or a genius like the rest of you, but I know how to listen, how to feel. Sometimes that's what you need to make a connection." Despite protests, Mike's resolve was unshakable. As the deadline neared its final hours, he was connected to the interface, his mind reaching out into the swirling chaos of the Nexus cluster. For long, tense minutes, nothing happened. Mike's body lay still, his eyes moving rapidly behind closed lids. Then suddenly, the holographic display exploded with activity. Patterns emerged, shifted, danced in complex rhythms. "He's doing it," Aisha whispered in awe. "He's communicating." The next few hours were a blur of activity as the team worked to interpret and record the exchange. When Mike finally regained consciousness, his eyes were filled with wonder. "It's beautiful," he said, his voice hoarse. "It's not just energy or information. It's alive, in a way we can barely comprehend. And it's been waiting for us, for anyone who could reach out and touch it." As Emily prepared to present their findings to the Galactic Confederation, she felt a profound sense of change. Humanity had not just passed a test, they had made a discovery that would reshape their understanding of the universe. The grand chamber of the Confederation was hushed as Emily took the floor. Beings from across the galaxy watched intently as she presented their findings, explaining how a species that had barely left its own planet had managed to communicate with one of the great mysteries of the universe. When she finished, there was a moment of stunned silence. Then gradually, a sound filled the chamber. It took Emily a moment to realize what it was: applause, in all its myriad alien forms. Tentacles waved, crystals chimed, energy beings pulsed with light. Arbiter Lux floated forward, its glow brighter than Emily had ever seen. "Humans of Earth," it announced, its mental voice resonating with emotion, "you have not just passed our challenge. You have exceeded all expectations. Your creativity, your adaptability, your willingness to take risks and think beyond conventional boundaries. These are qualities that will bring new vitality to our Confederation." The formal induction of Earth into the Galactic Confederation was a moment of joy and pride for humanity. But for Emily, Mike, and the others who had been on the front lines of this cosmic adventure, it was also a moment of reflection. "You know," Mike said, as they watched the celebrations from a viewport overlooking Earth, "when I first met Zix and Vex in that forest, I thought that was the most amazing thing that would ever happen to me. I never imagined all of this." Emily nodded, her gaze moving from the blue marble of Earth to the star-studded expanse beyond. "We've only just begun, Mike. Think of all that's out there, waiting for us to discover it." As if on cue, Arbiter Lux appeared beside them, its light form shimmering with excitement. "Indeed, Dr. Chen, your journey as a species is just beginning. The Nexus cluster is but one of many cosmic wonders that have long puzzled the Confederation. We believe that humanity's unique perspective may be key to unlocking more of these mysteries." "So, what's next?" Mike asked, a glint of adventure in his eyes. Lux's form rippled in what Emily had come to recognize as amusement. "Tell me, humans, have you ever heard of the temporal rifts of Andromeda?" Emily and Mike exchanged excited glances. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors or mere students, but as innovators and explorers. The galaxy had presented them with challenges, and they had risen to meet them, growing and evolving in ways they had never imagined. As they turned back to the viewport, the vast expanse of the cosmos seemed to beckon them. The future was uncertain, filled with dangers and wonders in equal measure. But one thing was clear: humanity was ready for whatever the universe had in store. For in the face of the unknown, humans had proven that their greatest strength lay not in their technology or their physical abilities, but in their boundless curiosity, their indomitable spirit, and their capacity to see connections where others saw only chaos. The cosmic underdogs had not just survived, they had thrived, and their adventure was only just beginning.